लगे ना आर्यन तो भारी
अरे निकाले
आगे तू काय तरी हेड आहे ना चेअर स्कूल मध्ये आदित्य सामंत
अरे तुका हाउस कैप्टन से ज्यादा मार्क्स मिलते हैं
एक सब्जेक्ट बाकी सब में नहीं
रे बाकी सब में भी मेरे को कुछ बड़ा नहीं मिला है नॉर्मली मिला है मुझे मैं यूटी के लिए पढ़ाई नहीं करती स्कूल की तो अलग ही लेवल की पढ़ाई करती हूँ यूटी के लिए मैंने बिल्कुल भी नहीं पढ़ा
स्कूल में भी अच्छा आता है
मेरे को भी आता है
मुझे ज्योग्राफी की बहुत कुछ साल का
तू परसेंटेज कितने आए थे 9th में
मत
बोलना 9th का कौन देखता है 10th का देखता है
मुझे इतना
80 के आगे आया है तो ऐसा होता है
80 के ऊपर ही है
हाँ 85 के ऊपर है नहीं सुना भी नहीं
नाइन्थ फाइनल एग्जाम बोलते 92 एक्चुअली 94 है ते रिजल्ट चुका
सेम थिंग इस कॉर्नर है तू भी है टेंशन मत ले कौन सा है
स्टैंडर्ड है पूरे स्टैंडर्ड कोई बाकी के क्लास में टॉपर के परसेंटेज 85% है टॉप 3 पूर्ण स्टँडर्ड बाकीचे क्लास वाल्यांना एवढे मार्क्स नाही भेटत
की टेस्ट है हिंदी की है ना तुझा मराठी की हिंदी है काय हिंदी लैंग्वेज हम मराठी है संस्कृत सेकंड लैंग्वेज कुठली आहे मी घेतलीच नाहीये टेस्ट हिंदी मराठी से घेतलीच नाहीये
मराठी
तो कल तो आपका टेस्ट नहीं है ना
मैंने नहीं देखी
तुझी नहीं उद्या हिंदी टेस्ट आहे मराठी आहे तुझे
पर नॉट कच्चे थे
मला असेल टेस्ट
Which papers you are got? Geography? Huh?
Data. Now I got 26. Now I did the climate maps, I did all of them, and then the climate did come in the exam. And I did not solve the topo maps at that case that was going on. And in that case, now I have the this is the topo map.
Yeah, you got 10.
Yes.
Yeah, you lost.
Ma'am,
And you all got the first topo map, no?
yes. Ma'am, I did practice that.
Okay.
Ma'am, I don't know whether second paper is.
If you not study with the different thing means if you study you will do better than. Here you got 16.
Ma'am, that also I don't know why I lost the marks. Ma'am, in the last one, like those kind of questions, like I can solve them. So in the last question, we were needed to find the average rainfall and average temperature, something like that. And I wrote the lowest one, and then I wrote the range of the temperature.
So there it
That's why I
went.
lost the mark.
Please, what you've written nicely.
Yes, but the ones which I didn't practice, those ones I was not able to solve.
So means now what's the learning for you? Don't leave anything to chance. Sometimes you feel like that's not good, and that only comes. So do everything perfectly. Means whatever you have attempted, you've written properly. See, here you've not lost any marks.
Now, and in the topo map, I did not understand this one.
That was the one we had solved here, no?
But in that, the small ones, we need to count them. So we need to take the all of them.
Answers also there.
That was here, but I.
Okay, chalo, today what do we have to take up? Which chapter we did last? We completed vegetation, I think, no? So, water resources today. Water resources and minerals. We have 2 classes. So, we complete with water resources.
We got the portion
Huh?
We got the portion from for UP exam.
From school? What's your portion?
From topo map, climate and soil. We completed.
For UT?
School UP.
School UT, okay. So, topo maps, climate and soil. Okay, we have done that over here. Okay, water resources we will start. Then I need to share the screen with you all. Keep your notebooks also open. You need to write some notes. If new tab is open, then their online won't go, no?
No.
Huh?
No.
Like here, if I'm changing, this will still remain, no? There, that writes there. Thank you. Sign in. What is that?
Water resource.
Water. Better? You all can see or what? ये दिख रहा है? Okay, so what do you understand by the term water resource? Water resource refers to any of the entire range of natural waters that occur on the earth and are of potential use to living beings. So this might come as a like 2-mark answer, like a definition. So write that down. Water resources. I'll give you a slide list about what we are going to do. See, this is the intro. Then surface water, groundwater. Why do we need to conserve water? Here, see this. Okay. Then we talk about wells and canals and tanks. Okay, why do we need artificial means of irrigation? What is surface runoff rainwater harvesting? Rooftop rainwater harvesting. How do they do it? Then some parts of the rooftop rainwater harvesting. Recharging groundwater aquifers, how it is actually in your books, in both your books, even your school books, and these images are not sufficient for you to be able to understand. So this would give you a better understanding. Okay, recharge pits. Then this is also done for recharging groundwater, permeable pavements. Then we speak about irrigation. So irrigation, traditional means we have wells, tanks and inundation canals. Here, wells, we speak about the different types, well irrigation. Then tube well, this is still more recent one. Advantages, disadvantages, then what is canal, two types of canal irrigation. Again, advantages, disadvantages. And tank irrigation, where it is done, in which places it is practiced. Again, advantages, disadvantages. And modern methods of irrigation like sprinkler, drip, furrow and spray. This is furrow and this is spray. First, the definition. What do you understand by the term water resource? The term water resource refers to any of the entire range of natural waters that occur on the earth and are of potential use to living beings. So what are the important points here in this? Entire range of natural waters, okay, means all forms of natural waters, an entire range like rivers, waterfalls, lakes, seas, oceans, the water that is trapped in the polar ice caps, all of that occur on the earth. Occur on the earth means that are present on the earth and are of, this is important, and are of potential use to living beings. When is a resource a resource? When is something a resource? When it is of use. If this pen is working, it's a resource. But if this pen stops working and there's no ink, then it stops functioning as a resource. It's no longer a resource because it's of no use. So, water that is of potential use. Those are water resources because we are talking about resources, about water that human beings can use. Then, 3/4 of the earth's surface is covered with water, but only a small proportion accounts for fresh water that can be put to use. Because what we use is only fresh water. We cannot use saline water. So write down the distribution of water. What is this 97 and 3?
Percent.
Yes, what is it? What is 97%? What is 3%?
3% is like pure
Fresh
water
water.
which has
Fresh water.
fresh water.
And 97% is the water that is saline. Right? So we cannot use this. This is saline and this is fresh. .3 and 0.7%. 2.3% is in polar ice caps. And 0.7% is no 0.7 out of 0.7 6.8. 0.67% is groundwater. And 0.3% is fresh water. So of this 3%, we cannot use this water. I mean the ones that are on the ice caps. So all that we can use is this 0.7%. Out of that also, only 0.3% is the surface water, fresh water, and 0.67% is the groundwater. 0.03. Okay. Then so when such less amount of water is available to us, what do we need to do? We need to conserve. What do we need to do? Conserve. Conserve means we need to save it. We just read this before that. Surface water and groundwater. What is surface water? Water found on the surface of the earth. Groundwater below the surface of the earth. When we talk about the water table and all, that's the groundwater. Surface water, streams, rivers, lakes, etc. are major sources of surface water. And groundwater, it is stored in porous soil and rocks. Porous means when water can permeate through. And in rocks, in between rocks. It can be directly used for irrigation, surface water, whereas groundwater, it needs to be pumped out, right? We need to pump it out. We'll bore a hole, we'll dig a well, and then we will pump it out. So that is the difference between surface and ground. Now, why do we need to conserve? Write down the reasons. First reason, increasing population. Write down. Second reason, rainfall erratic. We'll elaborate on these. Third, more than 90% required for irrigation. Fourth, industries also utilize high amounts of water. Fifth, water in rivers polluted. Cannot be used without proper treatment. Sixth, loss of vegetation leads to drought, which leads to decrease in rainfall. So, water harvesting required. And here put an arrow one more. This leads to reduction, lowering of water table. So, why conserve water? What are our reasons? Population is increasing. Have you finished? Still writing? क्या लिख रहे हो? Tell me.
So,
Reduction in rainfall leads to reduction of water table, lowering of water table. So water harvesting is required. Water harvesting, water conservation, same things. अभी इसमें first point, increase in population. This should be clear to you. Population has increased, so that's why there is more requirement of water, right? And also another reason is more water is then getting depleted, so we need to use it efficiently. Okay. Rainfall is erratic means fluctuates. Some year you might have less rainfall, some year you might have more. Some places have less rainfall, some places there is so much that it leads to floods. Also the time of the rain approaching varies, so there is a difference. So farmers cannot totally rely on rainfall, right? In case the rain has got delayed, then what's going to happen to their crops? So that's why they need a way where water has been conserved and stored. When do we store water in our houses?
when there's a water.
When there's a water. Nowadays that's happening a lot. I don't know, where do you all stay? Here in Sanpada only? Are you all having water issues now? We are having. I stay at Kharghar. Lots of water issues. Now it's got resolved to a certain extent. But otherwise we don't store water when it's easily available. But when there's a shortage, we always store water. Even in your individual houses, you all might be having those tanks, right? So we need to conserve water. More than 90, India is an agrarian economy, India is an agricultural country. So more than 90% of the requirement of our water is for irrigation, for the farmers. So that's why again that makes it all the more necessary to conserve water, because India is totally dependent on agriculture even now. Industries, development, how does development take place? With development of industries, a country further develops, right? So industries also require huge amounts of water. So we need to provide for them also. Secondly, water in the rivers is getting polluted these days, right? Even if you go to the Ganga, except in a few places where there's a lot of crowd, it might be, or the water's flowing fast, it might be good, but otherwise even the Ganga is getting polluted. And that water cannot be used without proper treatment, which is expensive. So we need to conserve water, use it efficiently, and let not the quality deteriorate. Deteriorating gets spoiled further. Loss of vegetation leads to drought. How does loss of vegetation lead to drought? Transpiration. What happens when there is transpiration? Water is evaporating from the trees, right? So that leads to formation of clouds and gives rain. But if you don't have vegetation, what is going to happen?
No rain.
You won't have rains. Drought means no rain, dry. That will lead to reduction in rainfall. When you don't have clouds being formed, where will you get the rain from? So, reduction in rainfall and reduction of the water table beneath the surface of the earth. Because in the water table, from where it comes, it doesn't come from down, no? It comes from the surface of the earth. So when there is no rainfall on the surface, how is the water table going to get replenished? So that water table will go down, that water will also dry up, or people will start using that water which is in the water table. Okay, so that's why we need to conserve water. We'll just see your points. High demand for water due to increasing population. Rainfall in India is seasonal, erratic and unreliable. Seasonal, erratic and unreliable. You cannot count on the rain. Okay, this day it will come, and this day this much will only come, and it will go on till this day, right? You cannot guarantee. More than 90% of the water is utilized for irrigation, so for farming requirements. Industries also require a lot of water. Scanty rainfall affects the growth of vegetation. So this is like all in a, it's like a cyclical process. You will have scanty rainfall, it will affect vegetation, and if you have less vegetation, it's going to affect the amount of rainfall that you get. And that leads to lowering of the water table. Yeah. So that is why we come to this point, that what do we need? Water harvesting or irrigation. Link समझ गया? Water resource. What is a water resource? When is it a resource? Only when it is of use to us. Otherwise, it's not a resource. And a very small part of the water that is available on the earth can be utilized by us. So we need to conserve. What are the reasons for which we need to conserve water? If we don't conserve, then what is going to happen? So that is why it is important for us to do water harvesting. And also an important aspect of it is irrigation. Irrigation means what? Where we are providing water, keeping it available to be used when there is no water available in the form of rainfall or any means that you are totally relying on. Okay. Now the process of watering agricultural plants, write this. You all have finished writing this early days?
Yes.
So what you will do is the main points you will remember. Like here now the points, how many points I wrote? 8 points, right? 6. So remember the main points and then you can elaborate on it in your words. Because your syllabus is so much, you cannot memorize everything, no? What happened? What are you telling me? What are you showing her? Yeah, right. The process of watering agricultural plants artificial means. Such as tanks, wells and canals is known as irrigation. Such as tanks, wells and canals is known as irrigation. So what is irrigation? Providing water through natural means or through artificial means. And what is the purpose? Watering agriculture. Okay, for agricultural plants. Now, agriculture in India is largely dependent on rainfall to sustain crop production. Means what? We are totally dependent on rainfall. So, to reduce this dependence of agriculture on rainfall, many tanks, wells and canals have been laid or made. Several multi-purpose dams have also been constructed. So what are we doing now? We don't want to totally rely on rainfall. So that's why we are creating these artificial means that when we don't have rainfall, that time we can use these. So here you can see this is a well, this is a tank. And this is a canal. This is again where water is pumped out through electricity. Okay. So we have to do each of these in detail. Now, why build artificial means of irrigation? Why do we need artificial means of irrigation? First was uncertainty and uneven distribution of rainfall. Uncertainty means कभी आएगा कभी नहीं आएगा कभी पहले आएगा कभी बाद में आएगा and uneven distribution means
sometimes more sometimes less.
No, uneven distribution means कुछ जगहों में कम पड़ेगा कुछ जगहों में ज्यादा पड़ेगा. So in India, rainfall is highly irregular and uncertain. At times, monsoon arrives early and sometimes it comes too late. It does not also rain uniformly in all parts of the country. In such a situations, farmers cannot totally depend on rainfall and therefore need other water sources to irrigate their fields. Nature of soil. Some soils require more water while some require less. For example, clayey soil. For example, if you take clay also that you play with, Play-Doh for example, that is not going to take in a lot of water. That will not be able to absorb and at the same time it holds moisture for long. Okay. So for example, clayey soil has high moisture holding capacity, means it can retain moisture for long, it stays wet for a long time. And hence it does not need intensive irrigation. Why? क्योंकि वो गीला ही रहता है तो watering नहीं भी करो तो भी वो moist रहता है. So the plants are able to get their nutrients from that moisture. While sandy, loamy soil needs extensive watering because that's sandy, that becomes dry fast. So it also depends on the nature of soil that you have. So in places where you have sandy, loamy soil, you will need more intensive irrigation. Intensive means more irrigation. Nature of rivers. Many rivers in India are not perennial. If they are not perennial means what are they? Seasonal. Perennial means flowing throughout the year. Whereas all are not flowing throughout the year. There are some that flow only when the glaciers melt, it gives you water. Right? Or only when there is rainfall, it gives you water, rest of the time it's dry. So, many rivers in India are not perennial. Most of the rivers in central and south India have water only for 4 months during the monsoons. Only when it rains it has water. Thus, extensive irrigation system is required because they cannot rely only on those rivers. They'll be able to water the plants only for 4 months. Rest of the time, what will they do? So they need irrigation. Next point, to maximize production. As the population of the country has increased manifold means many times, the production of crops also needs to be enhanced to meet the demands of the people, right? More people, you need more crops. Hence, advanced and reliable methods of irrigation are required. Samjha ye point? More people, so more food. If you want to grow more food, more crops, then you will require better methods of irrigation. Because वो खाली अगर हम लोग 4 महीना grow करने का सोचते हैं, we will not be able to grow enough, which will feed the increased population, right? So first of all, we'll have to grow throughout the year, and secondly, we'll have to use efficient methods on which we can rely. Okay? What else? These points you want to write down, the main points you have to write. Why build artificial means? So artificial means, why build? So first is uncertainty. And uneven distribution of rainfall. Second point, nature of soil. Third, nature of river. Fourth, to maximize production. Okay, so what was this point? Uncertainty and uneven distribution of rainfall.
Like the rainfall in India is uneven, like all parts of India do not receive the same amount of rainfall. So they need to reserve the water for agricultural needs and other needs.
Correct.
And monsoon sometimes come early and late.
Yes, it comes also at different times, so it is erratic. Huh?
Rainfall in India is uneven, uncertain, irregular, erratic,
Erratic.
and unequal.
Yes. So what other words will we use? Erratic, irregular.
Uneven, uncertain,
Huh.
and unequal.
Correct. Unequal. Yes. So unequal is this uneven distribution. Nature of soil. What was it?
Some soils can absorb moisture and store it for long, but some soils cannot do that.
Yeah. So which are those which can store the moisture?
Clay soil.
Clay soil. And which are the ones that dry and need more irrigation?
Loamy or sandy soil.
Sandy loamy soil. Nature of river में क्या था?
Some rivers are perennial and some are seasonal.
Some are perennial, some are seasonal, so we cannot totally rely, so we need irrigation. To maximize production में क्या था?
With increasing population, we need more people to feed. So we need increase in production of
Crops. ठीक है. So what we did now? What is the need for irrigation? What is irrigation? Artificial means, creation of water by artificial means. Why do we need to build artificial means?
Now, can we take a photo of this?
Of this?
Photo of this slide.
This particular slide? Okay, take it later. Why, what happened? It's not there?
Now, no, it is there, but it is like in a elaborated form. Not in a-
ठीक है, ले ले होगी ले ले. Okay. Arya has not come over.
Yes.
I'm thinking.
Then this is the same thing that we do. So in order to overcome shortage of water due to its increasing demands, we need to manage our water resources. A number of practices have been initiated and measures have been adopted to conserve water effectively. Some of these measures are, okay, so why build? And then next, what are we talking about? What have we done? What has been done, correct? In the sense, what measures? Huh? So, some of these measures are rainwater harvesting, watershed management, water saving technologies, recycling of water, prevention of water pollution. Now, water harvesting has many advantages. What are the advantages of water harvesting? First, no land is wasted for storage purpose. No population displacement is required. Okay. Groundwater is not directly exposed to evaporation and pollution. It increases the productivity of the aquifer. Aquifer means what? The groundwater. That is stored in aquifers. Like aquifer is somewhat like this. Here you will have at the bottom you will have non-porous rock. Huh? Porous is what? P-O-R-O-U-S, you know. Non-porous means what?
That the water, that there are no small holes.
Yes, there are no small holes in it, water cannot go through it. And here on the upper surface you will have porous. Okay, you will have porous rock. So what happens? The water seeps in and it accumulates over here. It cannot go through the non-porous rock. Okay, so then a kind of a well is dug over here and this water is utilized. Okay, so that is an aquifer. Productivity of the aquifer reduces soil erosion, recharge groundwater resources, etc. Is there in your book the same thing? Turn sourcing of irrigation. This we have to do now. Very well. It's the intro part only. You don't have what this. You have. So this is additional. So no need to write. Okay, just do it for understanding sake. Surface runoff harvesting you have. So I'll tell you what is surface runoff harvesting. Okay. Yeah, surface runoff water harvesting you have and rooftop water harvesting. See this image? Surface runoff harvesting. Harvesting of surface runoff and storage. Surface runoff means what is happening? What can you see here? The water is going and it's getting wasted, right? That is surface runoff. The water that is getting wasted, escape. Okay. So that water is harvested, that water is collected and stored. So harvest of surface runoff and storage of the same into reservoirs. Reservoirs means place where water is collected, accumulated, such as water pans, makes it available for use when required. You can see in that picture on the side, right? You have the village which seems to be on a kind of a hilly region. So the water that's flowing, they are collecting it over there. They are accumulating it. So it is getting saved, which they can use later. In this method of collecting rainwater for irrigation, water flowing along the ground during the rains will be collected into a tank below the surface of the ground. So that is collected in a tank. What is it? water flowing along the ground during rains. That is stored and collected. Okay. Not that, but still this basic understanding, have it. In case you have any question based on that, or even if you don't have and you have additional knowledge, you can mention that point also in any of your answers. But just understand what is surface runoff harvesting. What is it? When your water that would have otherwise gone waste, that water is stored in a reservoir and it is kept for future use.
So this mostly happens in mountain hilly areas.
Yeah, mostly it would be in our hilly areas or in some areas like, see, this doesn't seem to be so hilly, but still there might be a slight slope. And still see here they have made this kind of a gauze, these railings, and the water is getting stored. It's not going waste. Below this they must have made a tank or something. Next, this is there. Rooftop rainwater harvesting. Rainwater harvesting is a technique through which rainwater is collected from surfaces on which rain falls. So here surface on which rain will fall is this. I think this same image is there in your book. Right? Well, maybe smaller or not so clear. Similar, not same. Same है ना छोटा वाला image उसका ना. So what is happening? Water is getting collected from surfaces on which the rain falls. Then it is filtered and kept for future use. Rainwater harvesting is a technique, this write later, first just understand. Is a technique through which rainwater is collected from surfaces on which rain falls, in this case it is this, and filtering it and then storing it for future use. In other words, it is a technique of increasing the recharge of groundwater by capturing and storing rainwater. So there are two things that are being done. That water, it's being collected also, okay, to be used by the people. But at the same time, you can see this recharge facility. So by this, what else they are doing? They are doing two things. They are storing and they are also recharging the groundwater. So that water also goes into the groundwater which gets recharged. So the water table improves, it increases. These parts we have to do in the next thing. This you'll write down before I go to the next slide. So technique through which rainwater is collected from surfaces on which rain falls, filtering rain falls. Then you can put a full stop. After this, put a full stop. This water is then filtered and stored for future use. increases recharge of groundwater. So two things that is happening. What is it? A technique through which rainwater is collected from the surfaces on which the rain falls. This water is then filtered and it is stored for future use. Second thing that is happening is it's increasing the recharge of groundwater through that recharge facility. Recharge of groundwater, the groundwater table. Below the earth, below the ground, there is water, the water table. So that water, if we keep using it, like we dig wells, we bore those deep wells into it and we use that water, what happens to that water? That gets over. So your groundwater does not remain anymore. So that needs to be recharged. Recharge means again filling it up. Okay. Now the different parts, elements of water harvesting. This is there, no? So elements. First is the catchment. Second are the conduits. Third, storage facility. And fourth, recharge facility. Okay. Catchment is what? The roof in this case, where water is getting collected. Conduits are what? They are those pipes. Storage facility is what? The facility where they are storing for their own use. And recharge facility is that facility where they are recharging groundwater. So see over here now. Catchment. The catchment of a water harvesting system is the surface which directly receives the rainfall. यहाँ पे ये जो collection area लिखा है, okay, that is known as the catchment. Where is the rain falling? It's falling on that roof. So that surface is known as the catchment. Then here you can see this gutter, those pipes. Here, see this conduit. It's there in your book also, conduit. These are pipelines. They are nothing but pipelines that carry or drain rainwater from the catchment or rooftop area to the harvesting system. So all this network of pipes, those are known as the conduits. Storage facility क्या है? Rainwater can be stored in any available storage container like masonry, plastic tanks or RCC. Here, these. RCC is cement or plastic tanks like we have in our homes, the strong plastic material. So this is known as the storage facility. Recharge facility is what? This here. Rainwater can be used to recharge groundwater aquifers through any aquifer I showed you where groundwater is stored. Aquifer through any suitable structures like dug wells, bore wells, recharge trenches or recharge pits. Where they are digging a deep hole and they are recharging that water. So water is coming from here. On one hand, it is stored here for the use of the people, and on the other hand, the water is going down. It is recharging the water table. You समझ गया 4 parts? What is catchment?
The surface on which the water falls.
Surface where water falls. Conduits?
The water pipelines which carry the water which is falling under catchment.
Storage?
Where the water is stored, like tanks.
Yeah.
wells,
Or RCC cement or
Mason.
plastic masonry. Then recharge.
To recharge the groundwater aquifers, tub wells, bore wells are.
Yes, right. See here there's a tap and also they can directly use from here, etc. Okay, here there are two collection areas. See here also they are collecting the water. There's a flat surface. See now we spoke about bore well and dug well, no? Here. Dug wells, bore wells, recharge trenches, recharge pits. ये बुक में नहीं है कि क्या है, हाँ? So recharging groundwater aquifer. Box and text have written. See, there must be a box there.
Yes.
So there's just a mention of it. They have not explained in detail what it is. So bore wells are what? See here you can see the shallow bore well. So bore wells are built. This is bore well and this is dug well. Bore wells are built deep down to the water table than dug wells. Dug wells are not so deep. Bore wells are more deep, which brings out more pure water without contamination. So here the water, because it's much deeper, so you get pure water. What is dug well? Dug well is built by old techniques, whereas this is made with a machine, okay, and those heavy equipments which dig deep inside. Whereas this is by old techniques, which is time consuming as well as labor consuming, because people are doing this work. So it takes a long time also. It is done by hand shovel. Hand shovel is that thing that they use, no, to dig.
Also, tub wells are the common wells which we see.
Yeah, these would be more in places where they cannot afford to make a this bore well. But it is done by hand shovel, which is difficult and risky. Okay. So this is bore well, dug well. Then there is a mention of recharge pit. So this is that recharge pit. This is what it is. Over here, see, they have put this pump also to pull out water. One of them has it. So a recharge pit allows rainwater to replenish groundwater. Replenish means to fill up groundwater. By recharging underground aquifers, it can be built to recharge a bore well or just to help the water infiltration in that area. Infiltration means so that water gets collected and it goes inside. We want the water to go. Okay, so here they have used this pump where they will draw the water out. And here in these, it will recharge the groundwater. It will get absorbed down and it will replenish groundwater. Replenish means it will again fill up the groundwater. Percolation pit. Fourth is percolation pit. Recharge pit. It's that only. See here, this is of Lal Bagh, okay, and it was in the news also. Lal Bagh, you know, na, in Bombay, where you are the Ganpati. Lal Bagh's Raja. So percolation pits could push up Lal Bagh groundwater by 20 feet. These are percolation pits. You must have seen it in many places. Here, percolation pit is nothing but a hole dug into the ground. It helps draw water downwards through the soil. So the water will go down. Obviously, they can't keep it open because then it's dangerous. So that's why it's covered and there are a couple of holes on top of it. Helps draw water downward through the soil, recharging groundwater. So what were the 4 things? Bore wells, dug wells, recharge pit, and percolation pit. Then recharge trench. Mention of recharge trench is there? Recharge trench. Recharge trench is a trench excavated on the ground and refilled with porous media, porous things which can absorb water like pebbles, boulders or brickbats. These are all stones and pebbles which help in taking the water in. So that is a recharge trench. See section through rainwater recharge trench. Then there are more things like see some 200 thick layer of pebbles, then layer of boulders, means from small to big. Then bigger boulders, then something else, again some fly ash, some bricks over there. So these are all porous things through which water can get inside. Then permeable membrane mention is there. Permeable pavement. Permeable, what can I say? Membrane. I'm bio. Permeable, I don't teach bio still, that's what came to my mom. Permeable pavement. Permeable pavement means water again is going through it. Is a porous urban surface. So this is mostly, you will see it on the road outside in cities, which catches precipitation and surface runoff, correct? Because if you have this, how will the surface runoff happen? It won't, no, because it will go through it. So it catches precipitation and surface runoff, storing it in the reservoir while slowly allowing it to infiltrate into the soil below. So these are permeable pavements, not membranes. See here it's written permeable pavers. So these blocks must be called pavers. Then this is permeable concrete and this is permeable asphalt. So whatever, they are all permeable. They can absorb water inside. Kitna bacha? What time it is?
7.
Ho gaya na? Then this we'll start in the next class. We'll take a 5 minutes.
Reservoirs expectation. इससे वाला है